Welcome. Good morning. This is quite a week, quite a time. Water. Water is life. Water carries life. Water holds the essence of how it's been living. Water is alive. Water shows you yourself. Water becomes you. And if you don't care about where it's coming from or how it's getting to you or how it's treated on the way, that's what becomes you. Fire. Fire transforms. Fire brings liquids to solids, brings solids to liquids, brings solids and liquids to gas. Moves. Fire creates movement. Fire creates movement within you. Wild flowing fire is a spiritual resonance that brings you to life. Got to be careful. It can burn you. It's also crucial. It's essential. We're working with it. I don't want to give it up yet. Working with it is an art. It's a sacred art that we teach here. Understand that this is a focal point, and along with this are many of the elements, many of the lessons, the wisdom that helps you transform. So we go into, there we go. We go into different themes often. More importantly, is a hot day. We got something happening. I am a link for many of you to Gaian consciousness. Now, the purpose here is for everyone to be attuned with Gaian consciousness. I'm a transformational link, meaning I attune regularly to the consciousness from the heart of the earth. This is my norm, and it's embedded in the spiritual practices that we share here in the meditations and on Wild Chakra Yoga, the yoga channel. These practices help you both stay attuned and heal the ways that keep you from remaining attuned. Building upon that is how to amplify the elements of this attunement that leads you into a good life. And that's what we're talking about today. How do we use our attunement? How do we allow the flow, the momentum of the blood of the earth, the spiritual flow that moves through you, that keeps you attuned and enables you to function as part of the earth? Now, we're all part of the earth. This body is hers. We're going to give it back. Yet many of us are not tuned with the earth, meaning the attunement, the alignment of consciousness and focus, the focus that people place, the themes that people are thinking about are emphasizing and even amplifying a lot of things other than Gaian consciousness. Now, how's this even possible? Why is this even possible? Well, because there's been another story, his story. In his story, an undue amount of attention was placed on the power to intentionally move through forces. Why? Because the purpose of much of the era of his story was to move through karma, move through it, not get stuck in it. So believe it or not, the same forcefulness that allowed swords to be a core part of life, that allowed guns to be a core part of life, was designed initially at its inception, at its heart, to help people move through karma. And unfortunately, for a wide range of reasons, that same power can be misused in a way that enables the cycle of karma to recur. It had to be this way. And it is ending. And as it ends, we get greater windows, more tangible and present and trustworthy windows into what consciousness is without such hatreds as a dominant presence. Now, they're still here. And your trust that they are ending attunes you with the ways in which you could contribute to ending them. Your awareness on something beyond these karmic battles enables you to tune it within yourself and to become a conduit for such vibration, presence, spirit, resonance to enter the world around you, the community you share. This is sacred work, to be a conduit from the heart of the earth, following the rhythms of change, because the heartbeat of the earth changes. As Gaia shifts her awareness and intention and alignment, her heart changes, and her heart is currently expanding the range of consciousness that we are allowed to participate in. Why? Because we're ready. Minty, welcome here. Thank you for being here. Sarah, good morning to you. Hello, Joshua. I'm so glad you're here. Good evening to you. Where are you, Minty? Please remind me. France? Trevor, how are you? It's good to see you. Joshua. Oh, again, I had 1.2 grams. Well, good morning then. Angie. Misty, you spent 2 days. Wow, really cool. My kids are jealous. Really good. Thank you for the likes. Always appreciate it. As a rule of thumb, I don't actually like reminding you. I'd rather sort of prod you towards other things. So if you remember, likes are always great. But I do notice that, when I really like something on YouTube, I click like. Like if you're just doing it because I ask you to, I want you to want to like it. First off, welcome to everyone new. We've gotten a lot of new subscribers just the past couple of weeks, and that's more than exciting. Most of this is because the Thoth channelings have started again. Let's be clear about what this is. I talk with Thoth. Believe it or not, he helps me with all my personal problems. For the first time the other day, I asked him, it seems sort of absurd, but I asked him, why do you help me with this? He says, because it gets in the way. It's where you are. I have to reach you where you are in order to help you focus where I invite you to be. It's the same thing I do for you. I talk with you about a wide range of very personal challenges, and the intention is to create a bridge between where you actually are and where you can be, where we can be together. This is transformational spirit, and the veils are thinning. Partly I'm stronger, I'm more attuned, I have less problems. I'm better at handling the problems I know I have, and thus I can maintain a more present connection. I'm not as focused on my fears, the fears that come with success and attention. And thus I can allow more space to reach more broadly, which is awesome. But also within that is this commitment. There's a shift in my relationship where, a couple of years ago when I was doing channelings, he told me I didn't have to stop. He didn't say you got to stop. I was overwhelmed, and he did invite me to trust that it was my choice. It was okay to put it down. But he did invite me then I could intentionally ask him questions that I had been experiencing it as he was giving me channelings. Many of the initial channelings in the Thoth channelings playlist, I was woken up in the middle of the night. His voice was crystal clear, and I just went and recorded, and he asked me to. But he was increasingly letting me know I can ask things and pass it on. and it's like, oh, whoa, this is like a daunting shift because I can commit to doing weekly postings this way. And he seems to re-steer me. I just recorded the one for this Friday yesterday, and I'm going to keep doing that, trying to record it on Monday to inform this class. So it's sort of like groundwork to accept it. And what he's doing is, yes, I'm asking questions. He does seem to have a bit of an agenda, and it goes into a different direction. In this case, it went immediately, and I'm like, what is coming through my mouth? It was like, I can still pay attention. I'm not like a trance channel that surrenders into I don't remember anything. That has happened occasionally. But for the most part, I seem to need to know ahead of time. I need to, not everything, but he's teaching me in this more visual and emotional language So I'm getting ushered into the experience, and it's like I'm in it. And then it's a translation he helps me with. So when I sit down to do the channeling, it takes me beyond what I'd already understood. But I'm kind of holding this energetic field, this presence that he's already taught me how to anchor in. And oh man, it's fun. It's really, it's the greatest joy. I had a job out of college as a computer tech, and I started learning. I read this book, which I highly recommend to everyone, called The Holographic Universe. It's amazing. The man who wrote it died shortly after he wrote it. And I connected to him years later, and he basically said he couldn't have handled the responsibility of what he'd done as a living human. Like he was able to accomplish more by passing away and then connecting. And he let me know. He actually helped me and many others who read the book early stay stable. It's an incredible book, and it opens consciousness in so many ways. And at the time, he predicted that in the future, there would be psychic explorers would be a thing. And I was like, that's my career choice. Like, I want that. It was incredible, like, and if I'd known what I was signing up for, maybe I would have stuck with computers. It's better, right? To go on these explorations, you really have to let go of a lot, because every preconception you have is going to anchor you away. It's going to tie you to something in a way that inhibits your ability to accept certain ranges of consciousness, of awareness, of possibility. If you have a karmic need to remain in a certain pattern that protects you from a fear that's sort of unique to you, it's hard to share a journey that goes too far away from the rhythm of your need. And that's a theme that we're going to increasingly be talking about. Angie, welcome here. It's so good to have you here. Ryan, I'm so glad you're here. Hey. I'll address this. I am a neutral ground for substance use. For the most part, I neither encourage nor discourage. Substances have played a role in my path. I would say not a primary role. Cannabis played a pretty primary role in giving me a way to psychically and emotionally ground. I know that might sound strange, but it's grounded compared to what I experience often. And as a result, it gave me a way to sort of experience extremes and come back from them. The experience ends. And I do think it has a healthy healing role in that respect. And in general, it has its own lessons. Once you get lethargic, once you get sloppy, once you start not caring about your house or other responsibilities, your cleanliness matters. Once you stop caring about such things, I would encourage you to take another look at your relationship and either change that or stop. And in general, if you think that you're making amazing things and then no one else agrees with you, and it doesn't really sound amazing if you record it or look at it when you're not under the influence, maybe take a second look at your relationship. Hallucinogens, sort of similar. I'm hesitant. I haven't, most of my hallucinogen experiences were healing in a not pleasant way. Like, they helped me move through stuff, but I didn't have an awful lot of like, yay, what a great trip. And I didn't really want it necessarily. I seemed to be getting, like, once I went on a mushroom trip and I walked in the arboretum. It was 200 acres at my college. And I took my shoes off and walked in the mud. And I said, oh my God, I could do this all the time. It's so much fun. So then I kept doing that. So it was healing in that respect. Like, it would introduce me to things that I could do anyway, but it helped me go past whatever arbitrary boundary I had in my mind against walking in the mud. So I still walk in the mud, and I highly encourage it. LSD, I'm a little more tepid on. You can get lost. It's also more artificial. It's very extreme. It can introduce you to all sorts of interesting themes. The question is, are they necessary? Like, do they really want you? Do they really want you? Yes, they want you. Like, when you go through hallucinogenic experiences, you can get in touch with all sorts of ranges of consciousness that want you. They want your attention, and they can give you windows of ecstasy or intensity or curiosity or inspiration. The question is, How does this fit in with a life that's feasible for you? And ultimately, like now, with my yogic practices and the music that I make and the way I meditate, I just use this as a measure. Like, does something hinder or help what I'm doing? And in general, I don't need anything else to do that now. But to get here, I allowed myself to explore in the ways I explored. So basically, judgment-free zone. Be honest with yourself. Is it really healthy for you? Are you avoiding things? Substances are a great way to avoid emotional pain and frustration with your circumstances. As long as you can continue to heal and grow and take care of a general simple life, you don't need a complicated life. You don't need to be absurdly, successful by arbitrary mainstream measures, but you need to take care of the room you live in and the room you live in. The presence of angels is aligned. Every angelic being that I've met on the earth is in harmony with this core spirit of the earth. To the extent that angels and deities in our stories from the past fought, the people who followed them and worshiped them didn't thoroughly understand what was going on. Yes, they were present in wars. Yes, they referenced against. Therefore, cultures would say, you are this and you are not that. But what they were doing was essentially constructing a new reality for us to inhabit. If you look at the entire period of human history as a construction project, where death and rebirth are taken for granted. Angels know that we're going to die and be reborn and die and be reborn and die and be reborn. They don't like war. However, they're able to experience it a little bit more like the way the leaves fall, like the end of something and the beginning of something new. They don't like trauma. However, they're able to hold space for it as part of the karmic cycles that human beings go through. If you generate hatred, hatred will be the end of you. You could drip it out over a long time and lead a miserable life without much drama, or you could experience it in one burst and have a traumatic and even painful accident or death. These are the foundations of karmic existence, and angels know that karmic existence has an end. One of the critical themes in which the karmic cycle, his story, has an end. We're in the end times of history. To be able to experience this well, as I hope last week's class introduces people, is to recognize that it's a bend in the human presence. It's a bend. It's not an end of what we are. More importantly, to each of us, it's not an end of what you are. It's not an end of what I am. You first have to trust that, or nothing else works. If you don't trust that this isn't the end of you, you are still identified with elements of the karmic history. If you identify with those elements, you need to comprehend that you are taking your life essence and you are investing your life essence in something that does have an end. That's why it feels like you have an end. The reason a vast majority of suicidal tendencies exist is because people are identifying with elements of their egoic presence. Ego's not bad, but ego is temporary. Your identity in relation to the karmic ocean is temporary. And if you're investing your life essence in those elements, and those elements are coming to the point where it's time for them to die, it starts to feel like death. In fact, in many, many cycles, people die then. They don't have the capacity to move through that transition without dying. And thus wars exist. Now, the unspoken, this is just mainstream, this isn't even spiritual. The unspoken truth about most wars, you know who dies? You don't get pushed to the front? Criminals. People who've been locked away. Now, whether they deserve to be locked away or not is another question. But many of them may. They've violated societal standards and boundaries. They've murdered and raped and stolen within the society in a way that it is very hard to live with that kind of activity happening, no matter what level of compassion we have for the individuals involved. Those people are often recruited and pushed first into the war. Wars are society's ways of throwing away people that the cultures don't want. And the horrible truth is that most societies throughout world history just keep generating such. There are very few periods of even 20 years that cultures have gone through. Big cultures, the biggest cultures, don't go through huge, long expanses of time without fighting someone. Even if it's seemingly small and far away, that becomes a vent for negative energy. This is all karmic. The decision to die in drama like that is a decision to say, this is hopeless. This life is too far gone to reclaim. Now, that is not really true. It's never true. But souls are given the right to press the reset button, and the terrible truth is you have all the same karma when you rebirth, along with the karma of having killed yourself. It's interesting that this is leading here. May everyone who needs to hear these be present with it. Death in this form is a desire to press the reset button. The problem is you generate karma with everyone who loves you. So now you have a new layer of karma. You've decided that the karma that you've already got within the lifetime is too much, and now you generate another level of it. So in many, many, many ways, it's just putting off. It's just kicking the ball down the road. Now, the very daunting truth is we don't incarnate linearly. We experience incarnations in a linear fashion. But you can die now, and your consciousness could be refocused in the 1500s. That's what happens when you have to work out themes and terrors and burdens that don't fit in the context of society. And what does fit in the context of our society right now is that we are at this incredible transition point. This transition gives us a window into what life is like beyond karmic foundations. Now, it doesn't mean karma doesn't exist at all. It means karma is no longer dominant. Why, how's that even possible? Sam, welcome. Thank you for being here. How is it, Janie? Thank you for being here. How's it even possible for karma to not be dominant? Because we retune with the Earth's heartbeat. Before, the Earth was literally feeding us patterns of existence that enabled whole ranges of the human story to be what they were. Now she's offering something that's core from the center of the earth for everyone. This gives us an opportunity to embrace a unity consciousness. So it's akin to saying before, people were working within identifying themselves as blue. Blue fought with red. Blue fought with green. That helped blue say, I'm blue. That helped create a border. Now, obviously, there are shades between what we know as blue and green, right? So wars and fighting created distinction and difference. That is sacred. That was sacred. It was brutal. It was a construction project to create blue and red. Once these energetic spaces, because these colors are energetic spaces, once they exist, something new is enabled. Now they exist. Now we get to understand that we are blue and yellow and red. And when we think this, when we imagine this, we can tune to emit blue and then change and emit yellow and then change and emit red. And we can learn to do so in a rhythm that's harmonic, aligned with the harmonies of the earth. So then it becomes something very, very simple. What does that mean for you? I'd like to be very present with any questions you got on this one. I want to be more engaging here. So I don't know, all cap questions. Okay, I have a question about karma. Well, yes and no, Angie. Yeah. Suicide isn't suicide. Under circumstances of extraordinary pain, the body and the karma of the person itself has essentially already made its own vote. So making a choice to have a graceful death rather than dragging it out for another year is a very different choice than saying you're a young person, you're still healthy, and you made some bad choices and, hurt someone else really terribly, killed someone in a car crash, got addicted in a way that makes it almost impossible to feel again. These are things that, as awful as they are, there's a possibility of healing that within this life. And what that looks like is very simple. You stop just wishing life was different than it is, and you turn and you face your karma. Your karma is the actual presence of the resonance that you've created. The presence of the resonance you've created will be there when you rebirth. But if you've made a lot of progress on it, it'll be different than it was before. So it's not a reset button to the birth like a Groundhog Day or something. Like you start everything over again. It's saying, if there's a chance to bring some of the karma down and ground it in a lifetime, you really want to do that. Because when karma exists on entirely different frequency ranges from the other life you're living, you're torn apart. We have to take responsibility for the energy that's a part of us karmically and steer it into a retunement, which means you do yoga even though your mind's freaking out, which means you dig in the ground even when you feel like killing yourself. It means you take care of people who can't walk when you've almost given up and you're addicted, but you do still have the ability to work and cook food and serve others in this way. So the struggle to generate new activity that is healthy, that is in tune with a loving way of being, draws the karma that's negative, that's out of tune with harmony, with love. When there's a lot of tension in someone, and the way they deal with that tension is to vent it at someone else, that's karmic. Now they've created a pattern within them that says the way to handle my tension is to hurt someone else. But that hurt bounces back. That's what karma is. The karma, you can't really get rid of your energy. But what happens is energy gets generated mentally. You make a mental decision. I hate that person. That generates a pattern. Then if you act on that, that creates spiritual resonance. Now you have a tension of spiritual resonance that's present with you. So that's creating tension in your body. So now that's physical. A mental idea was acted upon with your body and generated a spiritual resonance that starts to reinforce taking that action with your body again. This is the momentum of karma. Now, in order to change it, the next time you come to the same choice, the tension is built. You know within yourself that if you aggressively treat someone else badly, the tension will dissipate for a while. So you have a strong urge to do that, and you have to restrain it because you're the one that made that pattern to begin with. So it's your job to restrain it. You don't have to do it forever. Once you restrain it over and over again enough, you will have dampened the urge to hurt someone else in that way and steered yourself towards, I'm going to go do some yoga and then work cooking food or work helping people who can't walk. Now, I'm trying to create an almost arbitrary extreme. There are lots of other things you could do that are more neutral, and they wouldn't dissipate the karma as fast because you're not generating something as loving. So people make a choice to dissipate karma over a lifetime, but their whole life, they're going to have an undercurrent of negativity, or they make choices to dissipate things quickly, in which case they get over it more quickly, but they suffer a lot in that phase. Absolutely. And so this is the theme of today. Sacred work can come in two basic forms. I want you to think about it this way. It's how I've been taught to see it. One form is to take karma, whether it's yours or someone else's. Doesn't even have to be yours. and you become responsible for helping to transform that karma. So you can still live in an unhappy karmic state. Let's say you used an addiction to cope with emotional pain. That addiction has made it very difficult for you to generate an ongoing positive life. So you become miserable, you yell at your friends and family, then you use the addiction to cope with the negative feeling, but that form of generating a quote unquote positive feeling within yourself is not at all conducive to being a kind person. So you're generating a different kind of karmic problem. Once you've done that for a period of time, this is your karma. It's in you. One thing you can do is not only stop using that addictive pattern, but you can become someone who helps other people heal addictive patterns. Now, if you take thorough responsibility for the pain that you have, then you could do that. You could play that role. You could play that role in a way that's extremely healthy. This is sacred work. Dharma, as yogis call it. Sacred work helps transform karma for not just you, but for other people as well. It's more than a gift to everyone else. It's a gift to yourself, because you stop struggling against what's real. No matter what's real, people who have violated sexual boundaries, people who have violated boundaries of violence, can counsel others who don't know how to change that. What could immediately, when you make a choice to do that and to become good at doing that, because there are all sorts of levels of like, how do you actually help someone in such a state? So now you're committing to focusing your life's work on becoming good at helping other people change these negative patterns. That's amazing. Think about the consequence of this choice. People who are immersed in having done a terrible deed or having held awful patterns for a long time will often feel hopeless. But when you commit to not just healing yourself, but also to learning how to help others, at least heal with others, you're immediately making the world a better place, and you will feel the gratitude of the earth right away. Sacred work feeds you right away. How to concretely stop zeroing your karma. So this is one of the most important concepts. Thank you, Sam, for bringing it to the table. Zeroing is the act of taking a force within you and negating it. So noise cancellation machines, if there's a sound wave that goes like this, a noise cancellation machine will emit a sound wave that goes exactly opposite. We have the power to do this energetically. This is sort of a resting space. So if we have the urge to go through with an addiction, we could generate an energy that negates that urge. The urge is expressed on a wave like that. We generate an energy that negates it. You theoretically get nothing. Now, really, you get a struggle. But the idea of the struggle is to get it into neutral. The only problem is the initial energy is yours, and the negating, the zero energy, the zeroing energy is yours. So the consequence of dealing with our karma by zeroing it is that we go from 100% of our energy to, if 20% of our energy is invested in addiction, 20% has to be invested in negating it. And we're left with 60% of our energy just to live. So we're in lethargy. Now, this doesn't have to be as simple as addictions. This can be, I had a painful experience when I was in my 20s. I got over it. I dragged myself through it, but I never fully coped with the feeling. I never fully coped with the anger. I never fully coped with the grief. I zeroed it. So when it came up, I just found something to shift my attention to. I consistently did something else that distracted me long enough that energy lost a degree of dominance. It got somewhat zeroed, but I became somewhat lethargic because I'm spending my energy on it. We could zero stuff from our childhood. This is how childhood traumas can emerge to the surface. We could zero things so completely we forget about them. More commonly, much more commonly, people think they get over problems. People think they get over breakups or over loss, but really they've just zeroed it. You haven't really processed the feeling. Now, for this to make sense, you have to understand emotions are intended to be in a cycle. Grieving has a cycle. So when you lose anything and it hurts, you can choose to check out or you can choose to move through that emotional pain. If you choose to check out by distracting yourself, you're working to resolve the issue by zeroing it, which would mean you're generating something else that distracts you and spending a lot of your energy to just kind of try to quiet it. That is not actually healing. However, you can use the ability to calm it down as a step towards healing. And what you do is, once you know that you have a very strong sadness or a very strong anger, you can make the choice to watch television or to go on a run or to drink a beer. And that will give you the emotional leverage to say, all right, this isn't going to crush me. I have some ability to calm this down. That can give people the courage to then turn around and look at it again. Now, the same thing can happen in short sequence as long sequence. So in the immediate sense, if I've just lost something last month, I can give myself the right to lounge on the couch for a couple days or drink a beer a couple times a week. I get lethargic, but at least I know that I'm not getting completely consumed by the pain. And then I can turn around and say, okay, what's going on? I need to talk to people who've been through these. I need to talk to a counselor. I need to find a circle of people who have all lost something similar or made a similar mistake. It's that simple. In meditation, you can do this as a question. So you ask if you feel a tension. Attention is often a sign that something's being zeroed. A tension in your body is often a spiritual tension. We're vibrational beings. So often what we think of as physical sensation is spiritual sensation. And that tension is usually the struggle between different forces within yourself. Typically, one force, an emotion that needs to express itself, fear, anger, sadness, joy even, that people are repressing. People get scared of joy as if it'll get out of hand. So people can repress those forces, and then they've got this going on in you. So when you know you've got this going on in you, you do yoga, you focus yourself, you go on a run, you can do it in other ways, you focus yourself, and then you meditate. You sit still, and you feel into that tension. Now, any tension that does not get resolved by physical activity, like yoga, now you know something's lingered. That lingering sensation is likely an energetic resonance that's struggling. So you focus on it. You breathe with it. Now, look, this is one of the most basic ideas I teach, any yogi should teach, all humans should know. It's also so simple that I frequently don't feel like people get it. When I say breathe with a sensation, the critical awareness is you breathe in a way that helps you focus on it. Now, that might not sound like a big deal. It's astronomical. It's through the roof. First of all, at first, you don't breathe with a lot of control, like counting, because you don't know what rhythm to choose yet. Don't let your mind run away with control. What you want to do is you give yourself the curiosity to say, how can I breathe in a rhythm that tunes into this feeling? And then you start tuning. So you say, oh, if I breathe in deeper, I'm going to lose my awareness on that sensation, and I'm going to just be in the breath. And I overwhelmed whatever sensation, so it's gone. So that didn't work. So the deeper breath isn't always better. So you're feeling it. Let's say I feel something right here in my head. I'm feeling it. Now, usually you can measure at the pause, at the exhale, the end of the exhale, the top of the inhale. That's a time when you could get deeper into awareness. And so as you pay more attention to the tension, I love that. As you pay more attention to the tension, Now I want a slow breath to focus on it. This activity, this ability gives you the foundation to transition between feeling something as attention and trying to deal with it, feeling something as attention and going into it. And so in meditation, you can go into it and you can start to trust that resonance is something, often karmic, often the resonance, the past of presence of the past, the presence of experiences in the past you didn't fully process. So you go into it and you start to think it. You start to get hints. Now, the other way of doing this is notice if you have people from your past or memories of past events bothering you, just kind of lingering. The commitment of a chakra healing, wild flowing fire path is to say you're gonna take those things as more than hints. That's your spirit saying, I need attention there. And you're gonna purposely ask about it, go into it, even consider another level of talking to someone, connecting with people from your past. Now, there's a whole art form on how to do this that we have explored, we will keep exploring. But the point is to make the commitment to do it. You don't just move past it. You don't just distract yourself, because that's just zeroing the energy. And once you learn to trust that this commitment to focus on things and work with them is about reclaiming energy into your life so you can use it. And this is fun. This is joy. This means you start to approach healing with a different element of inspiration. You know fully that it will liberate you to do this work. And once you trust that, you're in a much, you already right away, it's twice as easy to do the work, because you bring a confidence, a sort of assertiveness into this. I want it. Not I want to get this over with. You want to do it well, because you trust that the consequence of doing it well is going to liberate you to focus on the best life that's available right now. So I really do want to take you beyond what many people might think of as karma with this cause effect. I mean, that's the foundation for sure. Think of the presence of everything, because the window here is to recognizing that when you understand karma in this form, you understand life in a new way. You start to understand that life exists in a space of resonance. You can get so attuned that when you just imagine doing something, you start to get key insight on whether that's a good path, a healthy path. People get very excited. You first start waking up, you go to the grocery store, you pick up a food, you can tell whether this food is good for you or not. That was one of the first things I did. I would walk around bookstores or walk around the library, tuning in, that, boom, pick it up, open the book, boom, there's a sentence, it's for me. This is all a consequence of understanding how karma works, because karma is simply the lasting presence of energy you haven't dealt with. But the reason it's even possible for that to occur is because we're living energetically. We are generating energetic vibration that it doesn't just reflect our consciousness, it is our consciousness. When you're imagining something, it exists. You have to let go of the idea that we are biological beings primarily. This is a very simple concept that blows away a lot of chattery YouTube doctors and neurologists. The neurons are not generating. The neurons reflect the patterns we create. The body is not generating this stuff, but it does hold the patterns. Therefore, if you do something again and again and again, it gets imprinted in your body, and the body carries the momentum. But it's not the body's fault. You did that. You got to take responsibility for having done that. When you do, you could actually re-steer it and ultimately retransform your neurons. Even your genes will carry new patterns if you dig deep enough to change your relationship to reality. But you have to do that work. You have to be present in relation to the momentum you've created from the past. And whatever investment you have in a certain pattern, that's what you have to match. And when you match it, you get the immediate gift of this. You become something new right away. You still have to do the work, but you become the being who is doing the work to transform karma. So no, you can't just get rid of it because you make the decision, but you do immediately get to embody the presence of someone who is transcending it. It's a very beautiful shift. It is a sacred work. And anyone can choose this at any time. There is no point in someone's karmic journey when they can't choose to have this new relationship to their life where it becomes sacred work to heal. And typically that means the path to heal yourself involves helping other people to heal as well. And that's what makes it sacred. I just looked up to Sarah, and I'm saying what she put in all caps. Yes, very much. And this is one of the most beautiful framings. Healing a dog. I don't know why people don't talk about this. I don't know who invented the words healing, but it's a one-to-one relationship. Healing a dog means getting the dog to stop trying to go all over the place and walk along by your side. It means the dog no longer leads you. The dog does not walk ahead of you, pulling you this way and that way. The dog walks beside you, and if you turn, it turns. Now, we can have a discussion about the animal rights and whether this is healthy or not. But the point in yourself is that a healer helps you do that for yourself. When you have a karmic force within you that is pulling you in all sorts of different ways, you are not free. Think about that. You have a karmic force. An addiction is one of the most dominant forms of this. You have an addiction in you that's pulling you around. You're not really making choices because the momentum of this force is pulling you, just like a dog pulls you. To train that dog to walk by your side takes discipline. And it takes the same kind of discipline that says, I'm not going to have that cookie, or I'm only going to have one cookie a day. I'm going to make that choice consciously, and then I'm going to not, basically. So the energy within myself is something that I'm intentionally choosing. You still have a dog. The karma's still there, but you're training it not to take over. In order to do that, your will has to become bigger than the strength of that karma. And this is where your choice point happens. Your choice point is, are you willing to embody the consciousness, or are you going to be a victim in relation to yourself? Now, people don't identify it as their self, and that's the problem. People say, oh, this is happening to me. This is an external thing that's happening to me, that's forcing me. And the problem with this attitude is that it puts you in a sort of shrinking position. Now, I understand that for many people, that might feel like a salvation, to say, I'm suffering. Before they said they were suffering, then they're sick. They were just getting bashed around in every which way. Now they're at least saying they're sick. But if you say you're sick in a manner that puts the cause as an external factor or as a physical factor, an internal factor, you're not getting into the ways in which you're responsible for that. And the only way to stay responsible for everything that happens to you is to have this karmic vision that basically everything that happens to you, you just from the baseline, you trust you're involved in that. Might not be fair by some measures, but you don't argue because it's here. And so you need to become the person that knows how to re-steer these forces. Now, the beauty of this is a healer can help you do that. So if you give respect to a healer, you are allowing my presence to be with you in a way that helps you re-steer your karma. I help you hold the dog by your side. I help you have the will to generate a conscious presence that says, I am not going to be in this way I used to be. Now, let's be intentional. This is not all about addictions. This is any pattern. Any pattern within your life has momentum. Healing that pattern involves taking it with you. You have to take it with you until you're essentially grinding down its will to do something else. That empowers you to be your full self. It empowers you to have all of your energy and conscious presence together. And to be clear, many people, you want to just yank that dog and go with you. But the tricky part of healing is to recognize that dog often has something to say. Because this isn't a dog. This isn't someone else. This is a part of you. This part of you might be pulling you haphazardly, might be pulling you into addictions or into rage or into, ignoring work that you want to do or into sabotaging creative endeavors. But it still has something to say. And a healer can help you learn, decode, what is this part of yourself trying to tell you? Because it will often not fully heal. It won't agree to go with you on a conscious and intentional life until you accept and embrace even elements of this part of yourself that were rejected, lost. And there's usually deep gifts in such an exchange. It is rare that you essentially just yank that to yourself and get it to go where you want it to go. People will be in this mid-level space of healing where it's like, oh, I want to do this. I want to write my book, and this other part of me won't let me write my book. You have to understand, you will become a new person if you really heal whatever's sabotaging you. You will become a new person who writes a different kind of book or turns that book into a play or a YouTube channel. You have to surrender into the healing process. And that's another layer that a healer may be necessary. Let's see if we've got some more. I can't read all. I'm looking for any questions. So we got a little any tips for keeping Joshua. Cool. So here we go. Anyone at any point in your path can commit to healing in a way that addresses your karma, transforming it into dharma, which means whatever your challenge, you can make it your sacred work to help heal this challenge in yourself and others. In order to do that, you have to have a very honest gauge. Where are you in the path? You can always help other people, but sometimes you help them more by being honest and present in a circle of people with the same problem. You can't necessarily be their leader when you haven't done enough work yet. But it is important to trust that simply committing to healing is a gift, particularly to a circle of people who do so together. It is a powerful gift that helps align the momentum of the community in the correct directions, in a direction that aligns with the heart of the earth. Your sacred work can start at any point. Yeah, I do. I see them. And what you can get, the point you can get to is you can look through the layers. There's ephemeral consciousness that changes with our attention moment to moment. And so I can tune into the layer of consciousness that, like, my wife and I do this a lot. We'll do chakra check-ins in the morning and she'll go, okay, tell me what happens when I do this. And she'll start thinking about something and I can tell her what it looks like. And those things can change like this immediately. But I can also, just with my intention, say, stare at the deeper pattern, the pattern that carries momentum, the pattern that's, there are different depths, but the pattern that has so much momentum that you're not going to get rid of it just by thinking about something else. And that also has a presence and it can be seen. And it's incredible the validation that can occur when you could again and again and again be having the same emotional psychic experience. Your consciousness is trapped in the same kind of pattern, but you don't have any proof. So you don't necessarily give yourself enough compassion. When I see people and I say, look at this, it looks like one of the strongest patterns in you is this, that must be terrible. It can be hugely validating because just the knowledge that there's some objective truth to the fact that you're wrestling with something and it's difficult. People are so quick to jump to thinking, because they don't have proof, because they don't have an explanation that can be communicated clearly to others, somehow you don't have a right to compassion. You don't have a right to patience. It's awful. It's one of the worst traps. And it's one of the first lessons I learned. Respect feelings before you can explain them. Respect feelings. Respect them. Respect means to look twice. This capacity we have to try to disregard a feeling is zeroing. Now, we talked about zeroing earlier, and I encourage you to rewatch to learn these. Zeroing means that we're trying to use our energy to oppose our energy. We're trying to use our own energy to oppose unhappy, unhealthy, unpleasant energy. When we decide to cope with unpleasant energy by opposing unpleasant energy, we immediately create a wrestling match. And the best result of a wrestling match is that you hold this part of yourself down. The tragic truth of this, though, is you have to keep doing it. Unlike a college bout with rules, you can't just win and then walk away. If you've decided to cope with negative feelings within yourself by wrestling them down, you have to stay on top of them, or they'll just rear up again and start trying to create reality right in the middle of your consciousness. Now, if you wrestle down a negative feeling, you're essentially teaching it that it doesn't get to choose. You might have to do that, particularly with negative addictive patterns that hurt yourself or others. You might have to wrestle it down. So this is the mechanism of zeroing. You're wrestling it down. You got to do it. But that work's not done. Now you have to work with it. Now you have to get in there. You have to maintain your dominance, particularly if it's like an instinct to be violent or an instinct to do a destructive addiction. You have to maintain your dominance over this part of yourself, but then you loosen up and you start to say, hey, what's up? You respect this feeling. You don't think you understand what it is. You don't disavow it just because it's angry. Even if it's angry enough to want to punch, you don't disavow it. The other day, my son made some punches in the air at my family, and it was like a little scary. He's just started doing this. Like, he got mad and he made punches in the air, and my wife took him aside and talked to him. And after a while, he said he was mad because he didn't want to leave yet, and we were all about to leave. He didn't know how to express that. His feeling that he was mad and then sad to be leaving is totally legitimate. Now, this might not sound like a big deal, but I want you to think about this deeply. His feeling of anger covered up a feeling of sadness. His feeling of sadness was totally legitimate. Even the feeling of anger. He didn't feel like he had a say. We were deciding to leave, and he didn't get to have a say. So he had every right to feel the way he did. Threatening to punch us, not okay. The reason this is so consequential is think about the number of ways in which you might be disowning forces within yourself. You might be negating, disregarding them because they violate rules that you want to keep, some of which might be good, some of which might not fit you. It's not okay to punch. It's not okay to threaten to punch, but that doesn't mean his sadness doesn't need to be addressed. This is healing. You negate the negative instinct, but you stay present and you respect. You look twice. You look again at the feeling beneath the feeling, and even the feeling beneath the feeling beneath the feeling, and you honor it, and you stay present with it, and you feel it also. And at the end of this cycle, something very amazing happens. You start being so free from different forces within yourself that are wrestling that you can actually focus on something beyond it all. This is transcendent. Now, this might not sound like a big deal. I want you to learn to see this as a big deal. The sacred work that is independent from karmic forces suggests you can hear all of this pain, all this baggage is no longer yelling in your head. It's no longer tense in your body to the extent that it dominates your attention. Now you can hear what the earth is saying. Now you can hear the hope that she's feeding us. Now you can feel the sunlight. Now you can feel the rain and the mud. You can really feel it. And when you allow these forces to be central in your consciousness, you can start to hear her voice. And her voice is inviting you to help, to dance, to play, to participate in reshaping a consciousness that's literally dancing to her music rather than a karmic music, dancing to her music rather than an old story that's still lingering, dancing to her music rather than shared pain body stories that many people who are experiencing the same kind of pain together write to distract each other from pain. Oh, that's more than half of our entertainers. Make no mistake. That's 90% of the news. Make no mistake. They are paying attention to things together because they're all suffering in the same ways. Maybe if you're suffering that way, you need to pay attention to it for a little while, but know what you're doing. because beneath that is a deeper music. Beneath that is a deeper music that's inviting you to participate from a space of service that you get what you give. You live what you give. You become the resonance moving through you. Last month, the earth changed her cycles in ways it is unbelievable to measure. Listen to the Thoth channeling from the heart of the earth, awakening the heart of the earth. For the whole month of June, I went through the roof. I'm flexing a little because I want you to understand what's happening. All of my boundaries dissolved. I went through all sorts of physical boundaries. I went through all sorts of mental boundaries. Insecurities I've had just dissolved. I went from being able to, I got a pull-up bar. First, I was so embarrassed I could only do 3 pull-ups. I went to 3 sets of 10. I have to, there's a little bit of 2 long breaks in between there. But I just blew through my limits. I started doing all sorts of yoga poses I haven't been able to do. And my consciousness has gotten into spaces I didn't even know existed. I've had insecurities to allowing my work to succeed, living with the presence of fear of what could go wrong. And I'm just like moving right through it now. It comes up and I'm just like, I'm not arguing, I'm not fighting, I'm just kind of moving through it. The whole month of June, I was aligned with the heart of the earth. So when the heart of the earth changed, I just stepped right into the new consciousness space that she's inviting us into. It doesn't have to work that way. If you're staying tuned to karmic pain body, fear body forces, you don't have the same opportunity to transform when she gives us the invitation. But you can still do it later. This is happening now. And it's inviting you into a space where your sacred work is really and truly perfect for you. Your sacred work is really and truly an invitation that is ideally suited for you. And if you don't see it that way, if you think of it as a goody two-shoes thing that's going to be kind of boring, or think of it as an archetype of I will work at a soup kitchen, even though that doesn't bring you to life, then you're not hearing the earth right. You're just wrestling with your own ideas. The invitation the earth gives you is the best way you could be happy, the best way you could have an impact on the earth, the best way you could become healthy, the best way you can love the people around you. She wants the best for you. That is the invitation. And I urge you to trust that it exists before you put all your effort into figuring it out. Trust that it exists and that you align with it, often first through resonance and walking in the mud barefoot. I love you people. I'm overjoyed to be a part of your lives in this way. I'm very excited about the changes that we're going through. I urge you to share these with those who could be blessed by it. Do you know someone who could be blessed by this channel and or my work? I am competent and capable on levels I never have been. Like, I can really support people through healing transformations now. And I invite you to invite them. Check out the website and learn more about what's possible. There is also a membership space, the Sanctuary, Wildflower Sanctuary. We go there next. I will take a couple-minute break, and then we're going to go into the membership space to do a meditation together and then talk about what you read in yourself, and I will offer reflections on what I see in your reading of yourself. If you would like to participate, please also go to the website and you can sign up to share. It's an incredible experience and it works wonderfully in a safe space. And I will see you there shortly. Much love be with you and your family.